Jordan Peterson has been around for the past 2 years, very much, and his idea about God has been hotly debated all over the internet. But I didn't really find one video or one explanation that really suited my tastes or my interpretation. Um, a lot of critics, a lot of atheists feel that his definition of God is too vague. Well, to me, it's actually very easy to understand what God is if you just know where to look. In order to do that, I have to give a quick recap of the collective unconscious, which I explained in more detail in my previous video. So we have a belief that underlies our morality, and our morality determines our behavior. And we as a human species have been observing and reflecting about our behavior and have been putting these observations and these reflections into mythologies. And what do we see? All these mythologies show a lot of similarities. And these similarities are caused by the collective unconscious. And the collective unconscious is carried over, inherited, by implicit behavior which we as children observe. And the collective unconscious comprises archetypes or complexes, as you call them, or categories. And categories are tools for action. And this is how it ties in with the pragmatic truth. The existence of a glass of water is considered true enough if you can drink from it. So an object in the world of objects is true enough if there is an action in the world of action that supports it. So if a tree falls in the woods and there is no category, a tool for action, the action of listening, you won't listen to it. And the tree that has fallen down might have well even not made a sound at all. This is why the complexes or the archetypes are considered more true than true, because they influence how you observe the world. Humanity really believes in the archetype or the category of a hero, a guy that goes out onto an adventure on a major discovery or slays a demon. So this is a guy that really faces challenge and discovery and new information, which is all representative of the unknown or of chaos. So Peterson really is advocating to face more chaos and to escape from some kind of stultified life, which is a technical term for this existence of being in a walled garden of Eden, in too much order, too much laziness, too much routine, and not enough adventure. This also means that humanity believes that it has to live in a meritocracy, in dominance hierarchies, or if opponents would call it social Darwinism. So because the human collective unconscious usually is talking about putting an effort, facing pain, facing a challenge, facing discovery, and this is what Peterson also refers to as life is suffering. It's the people that are running away from difficulties and challenge that are leading very unfulfilling lives and can't bear how hard life is, and will eventually, in its most extreme form, become mass murderers and serial killers. So the humanity shows that it really believes in effort, responsibility, and diligence, maybe even the Christian virtue of diligence. We have goals that require tools, and of course, the least evident goal requires the least evident tool. The largest, longest goal requires the largest, longest tool. Another detail that I wanted to address in my previous video, but I couldn't because of time restraints, is actually quite important for looking at Jordan Peterson's definition of God. It's the symbolic importance of logos and the eyes. So the eyes are symbolic, amongst other things, for how well you can see into the collective unconscious. So all these technical terms that have to do with vision and eyesight are of a very important symbolic importance. So he mentions peripheral vision quite often, or low and high resolution, where in low resolution he says you can see the archetypes. Blinded, there's many, many more. And Logos is the word of God, so it's with the Logos that God created the earth. So speech is something almost divine and very important symbolically as well. So when he says truthful speech, it's how you give form to your surroundings in order for your surroundings to be in tune with the collective unconscious. So it's how the collective unconscious expresses itself. So all these things about speech, like truthful speech or precise speech and criticizing the world, have a very large symbolic importance for the collective unconscious. This is the Peterson-Harris debate they had in Vancouver, where Jordan Peterson explains his definition of God. And to me, it's not vague at all. We clearly see that at the core lies that God is that which selects among men in the hierarchy of men. So mankind lives in a dominance hierarchy, and the people that rise to the top have principles that guide them there. What are those principles? The ability to articulate truth, the ability to be competent, and the ability to make appropriate moral judgments. Veering off into other videos by Jordan Peterson about meritocracy and IQ, we know that we live in a dominant hierarchy, and the most competent people are the people with the highest IQ. So the people that are leading us, that are at the top of the dominance hierarchy, people like President Trump, are the people with the most appropriate moral judgments and the highest IQ. That's why Peterson flew to Australia together with the Trump family. When talking about the Bible, Peterson often mentions that in the Bible there were 7 instances of civilizations, of big cities that came to be, grew very large, and were torn down by God. And this is, of course, why God is only perceivable in the longest time frames, because it takes a very long time for a civilization, for a society to grow, become so grand, and start sinning on such a level that God rectifies the pathological hierarchy. Here I am in a bigger resolution again. So I now think that given all these factors, we can see the logic that God's most dominant function is that of creating human social structures. If God faces scales and creates habitable order, that means God is creating a society which is habitable for humans. God is that which creates societies out of chaos and also destroys societies. And all other side definitions just flow from there. God basically is the dominance hierarchy. This leads us into his talks about chimpanzees, about Piaget, about playing baseball and sore losers. But let's not veer into that. Just this means that when the slavery was abolished in Christian nations in Europe in the old times, that was an overthrowing of a pathological hierarchy, which was God. So yes, the Christians abolished slavery, and when Christianity made way for the Enlightenment, that was also a pathological hierarchy overthrown by God. So it really is Christianity and God that created the Enlightenment. And this is why Peterson is a proponent of the West defined as the Judeo-Christian Enlightenment.